The fitness industry is full of lies. Fake natties everywhere, people who just pretend they have god-tier natural genetics when they're 100% on gear. And now we're seeing people like Hussein, who I actually do believe is natural, get called out some kind of fraud. Meanwhile, there are hundreds of influencers that are clearly enhanced, claiming they've never touched anything. I'm just gonna be straight with you. So, I've gained a lot of followers by showing what's possible, from fat and directionless and depressed to lean, fucking jacked as fuck, and disciplined. And that has come with a ton of speculation. The are you natty, what's your cycle, bro hopped on gear, anything is possible. And for years, I didn't answer, and not because I was lying or hiding it, but because I don't want you guys to give yourselves the excuse that you can't look like me because someone was on steroids or something like that. Because the best thing that helped me when I first started watching people's transformations online and stuff was not thinking David Lade was on steroids or not thinking Chris Bumstead was on steroids. I mean, I literally thought that because it was called classic physique that he was not on roids for some reason. But all those sorts of things enabled me to believe that it was possible. It's the belief that you can achieve it that pushes you to keep going. So I didn't want anyone to see me and think, drop me a comment and say, are you natural? I go, nah mate, I'm on tren. And they go, screw it then, leave the gym. If I can't look like that without tren, I just won't go. That's a self-limiting attitude and it's just stupid. Because honestly, yes, PEDs make a difference to your physique, but they do absolutely nothing for your discipline on your diet. They don't help you stay consistent. There's a lot of things they don't help you with. So let's go through it. I started lifting when I was around 19, which right now was 5 or 6 years ago, somewhere around there. And it's honestly quite late for someone to get into the gym. Most of these kids nowadays are starting at 15, 16, and they're already like IFBB pros by the time they're 20. But that was not me. I started in the gym when I was fat. You might have come from Instagram, seen my transformation, and I had no real aspirations of ever being jacked. I remember specifically saying, I was like, I'm not gonna be drinking protein shakes. Nah, why would I do that? For some reason, that was just the belief I had in my sole goal at the beginning was just lose fat. I just didn't wanna be fat anymore. And I'd been fat all throughout school, always called the chubby kid, always, that was the only thing people picked on me for, being fat. And yet, now I look back, I really wasn't that fat, but it had built it up so much in my mind that that was my sole goal of like stop eating junk food, get shredded. I just wanted a six pack, wanted to be lean. So I started in the gym, smashed cardio every day, 7 days a week, an hour's cardio, running on the treadmill. I do a few little ab workouts in between, maybe a few pull-ups, push-ups, that sort of thing, but really just focusing on cardio. Around 6 months in is where I started the strength training. So I started actually smashing the weights. I started seeing people doing heavier dumbbells than me, and I was like, I want to be able to do that. And then that's how I got into kind of the bodybuilding side of it. And from that point on, years 2, 3, and 4, that sort of thing. And I don't want to encourage you guys or say this is the reason, but from 6 months in to around 3 years in, I consistently watched breakdowns of PEDs by, More Plates, More Dates, Greg Doucette, all these guys on the internet. I would watch comprehensive breakdowns of all the different chemical structures and the side effect profiles and what they did for you and which one's the best one to take, which was the worst one to take, the side effects, blah, blah, blah. I watched them for years and it was kind of like the one thing I was like interested in. It was like my hobbies were the gym and like biochemistry research of steroids or something. I don't know why, but it just became like a fun thing for me. I was like really interested in it, that these things you could take could make your body like perform better. And everyone knows all the standard drugs like cocaine or bloody heroin or meth. You kind of understand what they do, but no one talks about, and it's kind of dropped into you that these steroids are bad. They make your dick shrink and they make your neck big and they make you angry and beat your girlfriend. That's kind of the thing of steroids. It's like, that's what they do, and you kind of think meth, you get no teeth. Heroin, you inject it and you die. Like these are like the stereotypes you have. But no one really tells you that all these drugs feel great. When you're doing them, heroin and meth, not that I've ever done them, but I imagine There's a reason people do them, because they feel amazing. And no one really talks about that side of drug addiction or that side of doing sort of these different substances and things. So getting into the steroid side of it, I got so interested in what they did, how they could literally make you perform better. And when people would talk about them, I'd talk about it, you know, with my peers or my friends or my family. I'd be like, I would always say, as like a kind of running joke, like, yeah, I'm going to hop on steroids. Of course I am. Kind of to annoy my mum, but at the same time, because I knew it was true. At some point I was going to. I just knew it was inevitable. So at that point, I was doing lots of research. I would watch videos every day. I would read forums. I would read the research done on all these drugs and that sort of stuff. And came to the conclusion at some point that I would probably try them. So that's where we get to this point now. And let's be honest, the fitness industry right now is full of lies, full of people pretending they're just disciplined or they have God tier genetics when they're running compounds lying through their teeth. So we're seeing people like this Hussein Farhat, who I actually do believe is natural. He gets called out online like he's some sort of fraud, but meanwhile there's hundreds of influencers clearly enhanced that are claiming they've never touched anything. And just a little bit on that Hussein thing. I don't know what planet you guys are on, but his physique is so easily attainable naturally. Like, maybe in the time frame, yeah, it's impressive, but I'm sorry, we figured out that Matt does fitness is natural, right? He looks 10 times better than Hussein, got way more muscle. Maybe not better, like you can say, you can have objective reality and your own opinion, but I would believe Matt Does Fitness looks way better. Like, obviously there's not a lot of guys to compare him to now because no one's natural. But I know what I achieved naturally in my head, and it's very achievable natural, guys. Like, he's 180 pounds and he's, what, 12% body fat? It's not that crazy. Like, I don't know, like, just because these guys make so many videos on it, it's so hyper, like, fixated on it. It's like, he's not fucking the Hulk. Like, some people, I don't understand. Some people believe The Rock is Natty, but they probably believe that Hussein isn't. I don't know. Makes no fucking sense to me, but anyway. So, I'm just going to be straight with you guys. I am not a lifetime natural. So I haven't been natural for probably 3-4 years now. And let me be honest, it's not like I just hopped on like testosterone or what you would think is gear straight away. I didn't just start pinning stuff and get massive. I was still quite young. I was just, you know, I'd done this research online, and very similar to a lot of you guys that have maybe thought about it, is I didn't want to pin stuff in me. I was like, needles? I can't be trusted with that. You know, I'm not a doctor. So I started with orals. I started testing out different oral SARMs and oral steroids and peptides, like all these sorts of different things, like to name a few. Well, yeah, SARMs, enclomiphene, Winstrol, Superdrol, Anavar, all these different random ones. And I started just testing them out. I started doing little 12-week cycles of different stuff. And this is the part that no one wants to talk about, or no one will talk about, so I want to, is even though I was enhanced, even though maybe for that year I'd been enhanced on and off with these different orals, I still looked like fucking garbage. Why? Because I wasn't disciplined. I wasn't tracking anything. I wasn't eating enough protein. I wasn't progressing in the gym with progressive overload. I wasn't sleeping right. I wasn't consistent with anything. And it makes you realize that the diet and the training are the best two performance enhancing things you can do over any supplements, over any PEDs. If you're not eating enough, the PEDs will do nothing. If you're not training, they'll do nothing. And yes, you can pull up that study of where people sat on the couch and gained more muscle than people who trained. But extrapolate that over a long enough time frame, it just doesn't look like that. Yes, maybe some people at the very beginning, just on steroids, would gain a bit of muscle, sat doing nothing. But the guys who train for 10 years are going to have way more muscle than them guys sat on the couch. Anyway, I thought they would do the work for me. I thought, like a lot of you guys, I'd hop on, bang, 12 weeks later, I look like sebum. But this just doesn't happen. It just doesn't work like that. And to bring that Hussein as in an example, like even though he's not natural, to bring that Hussein in as an example, like even though he's natural, you might not even be able to hop on gear, train for 3 years and do what he's done, because it's all down to genetics, consistency with your diet, consistency in the gym, and how intensely you're training. That's really all it comes down to. PEDs work in a way that if you took two identical people and put one of them on PEDs and one of them not, this person would grow much faster, much quicker, get much stronger. But if you take two random different people and you keep one natural, keep one on PEDs, you just don't know who's going to be bigger. You don't know the mindset of this person. You don't know how intensely they're training or how consistent on the diet they are, how much protein they're getting in, or just their genetics for muscle building or genetics for how good their muscles look. There's so many different attributes. There's so many different attributes that go into it that it's very difficult to say what you would look like or what would happen if you got on. And that's why, to me, like I said, I never cared if these guys that I'd looked up to were natural or not, because it doesn't matter what they can achieve naturally. It matters what you can achieve when you put your all into something. And yes, you know that if you put your all into it, consistency, hard work, intensity, training intensely, eating the right stuff, yes, you'll grow as much muscle as possible. And then from there, you can take steroids and grow even more. But you can't compare yourself to everyone else online because they just have completely different genetics to you. If you come to me and say, oh, what's your cycle? What are you on, bro? I want to look like you. It's like, okay, well, my cycle was like 3 different doses of random oral steroids for 12 weeks. And then I came off and didn't do a PCT. And then I ate McDonald's for 3 weeks and went out and drinking. And then I got into a phase of like running. And then I starved myself. Like, you shouldn't follow that. That's not going to fucking work. It just is what I did, you know? It's kind of like, I get quite annoyed when I'll tell people that my old friends or just some friends I know, like, oh yeah, I'm taking this stuff. And they're like, oh, what the hell? That's crazy, man. And I'm like, have you ever done pills? It's like, yeah. It's like, oh, okay, so you'll take some random drug someone gives you in a rave or in a club. When you're drunk, you'll just pop it and hope for the best. But performance enhancing drugs are stupid. It's like, that's always boggled my mind. You know, something that, and it's really, to get into it, it's like the psyop of this generation in my head of like, you know, I'll tell people, yeah, steroids, and they hear it as like such a bad thing. And I'm not saying they're not bad, but compared to all the other drugs on the market, the comparison is like, you can either be one of these guys who goes out drinking every weekend, doesn't hit the gym, or inconsistently hits the gym, has takeaway every weekend, and kind of just is not locked in, or someone who's completely locked in, perfect diet, perfect training, never goes out, doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, but does performance enhancing drugs. I would argue they're way better off than the person who's not living that healthy lifestyle, even though they're on steroids. And yes, the best of both worlds would be to be doing it all naturally, but compared to the general population, really doesn't matter. You're still very much more healthy than all these degenerates, you know? So yeah, if your habits are lazy, gear will just make you a slightly bigger, lazier version of yourself. And that's what happened to me, to be fair. Like, I started doing these orals. did D-bol and things like that. Definitely don't recommend. And I just ate a bunch and thought I was bulking, got fat, looked terrible. Yeah, I was slightly stronger, but I had a moon face, I had spots, I was just fatter, I couldn't run, I couldn't walk upstairs very quickly. Like, the only thing that improved was a bit of strength. Overall, I looked shit. And that's what I look like in this picture here. And this is kind of the why I'm making this video. If you go check out my most recent reel, is because I made this talk about these guys that are on social media and they make these videos like, this is what 6 years of natural lifting looks like. And here's, you know, this is a realistic transformation. And it's like, you just look fucking average and kind of shit. And it's like, this guy responded to me in a video, kind of like calling me out, like, not everyone wants to look like that, man. And it's like, if you're claiming to be lifting naturally, locked in 10,000 steps a day, locked in with your meal plan, diet, protein, all that for 6 years naturally, then you do want to look like that. That's the goal. What if I said if I told you there's someone out there that's training every day in the gym, they eat perfectly on their meal plan, they hit 10K steps every day, they've done it every day for 6 years, what would you say their goal is? To look the best as fucking possible? Wants to look like. I don't care what you tell me, like, some guys like a dad bod. No, all right, they only like that because it's easy to maintain. If they could have any maintainable physique, they would have the best one. Stupid. So, don't let people lie to you, but yeah, they're not willing to do the extra, maybe more dangerous things like get on PEDs, which I completely respect that. But don't say that they don't want to look as good as possible, because they do. Just simple as. Every guy that I've ever got on a call with for my coaching wants to be more lean and more jacked. They don't want to just get bigger. Some guys in different phases, that's what they'll want. But overall, their overall life goal in the gym is leaner and bigger, all at the same time. So I don't care if you're saying, anyway, so yeah, forget that guy for now. But that's kind of why I'm making this video, because I talked about it on my Instagram, so I'm making a full breakdown, and I'm going to do a little Q&A after this. So any questions you guys ask me on Instagram, I'll be answering in a minute. So basically, the turning point for me, where I still looked like this, and I'll pop some pictures up on the screen. So this is what I looked like. I'll just go through it now. So basically, this is what I looked like when I first started in the gym. Fat, fucking weird, spotty, depressed, broke. 6 months later, I looked like this. So this was the transformation I made naturally, and as you can see, like, I think that's pretty good genetics. I mean, people even call me out for that being not natural, but it was. So, and around 2-3 years, somewhere around that time frame, after that is when I had been doing this. I'd been doing all my research and kind of thinking about it, watching all these YouTube videos, and I've decided to finally do something. So in this next sort of phase, I was kind of bulking or main gaining. I mean, I wasn't trying to maintain this lean physique, but I was trying to grow muscle, get leaner. That was kind of my main goal in this period. I'll pop a few pictures up on the screen of me kind of just fat sometimes, a bit leaner. I wasn't tracking my protein or tracking my lifts. And I wasn't training like it mattered. I was just doing these different experimental like drugs and things just to see what worked and kind of just experiment. And just as a side note, at this time, I wasn't drinking, wasn't partying, wasn't smoking, wasn't going out doing anything crazy like that, wasn't eating McDonald's all the time. I was still very much clean, healthy person. My resting heart rate was like 38. I would run at least like 50 miles a week. Like, I was pretty locked in with others, with just healthy lifestyle things. But in terms of doing enough to kind of make my physique look good, that's what I wasn't doing. So yeah, for that next kind of period of time, you can see that the turning point for me wasn't just another cycle or doing different steroids or whatever. It was deciding to actually I started tracking my protein, started tracking my lifts. I started training like it fucking mattered, eating like it mattered, sleeping like it mattered. And that's when I saw a real change. Not doing more steroids or different stuff, but a different mindset. And this was me enhanced and unintentional, and this was me enhanced and locked the fuck in. Massive difference. So the real message is, if you're watching this or see transformations online and think, oh, it's just fucking steroids, he's just hopped on. Nah, bro, that's not it. Like, I was enhanced long before I looked remotely impressive. The difference wasn't what I was taking, it was how I was living. I've seen natural guys with world-class physiques, like Hussein, because they nailed the boring stuff every single day. They nailed the training, they nailed the meal plan, they nailed the protein, they nailed the intensity. The gear doesn't replace the work, it doesn't replace the consistency, it doesn't replace the mindset. So anyway, I've got a lot of yap in there, but all of that to say, this is kind of where I was at when I really was locked in. And at this point, how I kind of did it was, I would do, at this point, to be open and honest without kind of don't want to promote this shit, so I don't want to tell you exactly what I was doing, but I was on and off different orals and SARMs and things like that for, you know, a couple months at a time. Then I'd come off and I would properly PCT every time. This is the thing, if you are thinking about doing this shit and you actually are gonna, then you got to nail the stuff that maybe doesn't feel like the fun stuff. Like, I always PCT'd off everything. I was always taking HCG or something to keep my natural production on. You don't want to ever shut your complete natural production down. You don't want to be on this oral stuff for really any longer than 10 to 12 weeks. It's just going to kill your liver and kidneys and this sort of stuff. You need to do all this research to understand all of it. So that's why I can talk about this quite easily without having to pull up notes and things like that, because I did so much research and it's all just in my head now. And it's something I got, you know, it's something I definitely got right. I didn't just hop on straight away, figure it out, make all these mistakes. I'm talking about the mistakes I made in terms of my diet and training, and just not locking in with just the stuff that actually fucking matters. I was locked in with how I was taking this stuff and how I was experimenting, but I wasn't locked in with the shit that matters, which is the food and the training. So Yeah, for the last sort of 3 years, kind of the second half of my in January 2024, I was doing the same stuff I'd sort of always been doing. I'd never injected anything. It was always oral stuff like SARMs and oral steroids, things like that, peptides. And they make a subtle difference. You're not going to get on and blow up like Ronnie Coleman. It just doesn't work like that. You have to understand these people have been training and eating like animals for 10 years and taking grams of steroids. Make much of a difference in terms of how it will shut down your natural production of testosterone. So your balls will shrink and your natural production will shut down. So if you're not doing a PCT, which is a post-cycle therapy, if you're not bringing your balls back online, they're gone. You know, they're gonna come back naturally very slowly. You'll have no sex drive. You'll have no sort of aggression in the gym. You won't be able to grow muscle very easily. You're gonna have to continuously cycle these things, which is kind of like just drinking alcohol every day with how bad it is for your liver. So you really don't want to be putting orals and stuff through your body constantly, destroying your liver, destroying your hormones and your balls and all this stuff. It's just not good for you. I do not recommend starting this journey. And I do regret starting it at the beginning because it's just way easier to stay natural. I don't care what anyone says. People will say like, oh, it's so easy being on roids. It's like, it's really not, man. There's so many things that go wrong. But yes, so basically for this next 2024 year, I'd been on and off different SARMs and orals and things like that up until I did my bodybuilding show. So I never did a natural show. I think natural shows are pretty lame, to be fair. Like, sure, respect to anyone that does them, but like, the same shit happens doing a natural show. Your balls shut off because you're eating no food. And yes, they'll naturally come back on, but you have no test, so you have no muscle. Like, people are just naturally, and they just get really skinny. They just seem to get really skinny and lose all the muscle. So I was like, well, I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to enter a untested show, IFBB or NPC show, and ended up winning. And for that whole prep, I was off stuff. I was natural up until around, so I'm getting the timeline a bit jumbled up here, but from around, I'm going to say at a guess, around 2022 to 2024 is when I was experimenting with these different orals and things like that. 2024 is when I started blowing up on social media. I was still doing this same stuff off and on of different orals and PCTing within clomiphene and HCG and things like this. And at some points I'd be natural, some points I wouldn't. But from that very beginning point, as soon as you take something, you're not a lifetime natural anymore. You can't claim Natty. So I was off and on for that next year. Around 2024, around March, I moved out of my parents' house and moved into this place I am here. And that's when I also decided to do a bodybuilding show. And for that show, I was thinking about hopping on properly, getting on testosterone, getting on all this stuff, and properly doing this bodybuilding thing because it was what I wanted to do. That didn't end up going ahead. I didn't end up doing that. And really, to be open and honest, just because, I was still a bit preemptive of going from orals and SARMs and things to hopping on actual steroids, like to hopping on actual testosterone that you have to inject. It is slightly different. It's not just that the needle is scary. It's that when you actually replace your balls with a needle, that can be a lifetime commitment then. I'd known from the beginning that I could always bring my balls back on, always bring my natural test back on because I'd been doing blood tests and things like that throughout. So I knew that I could restore my natural testosterone if I wanted to just stay natural. But once you pin something, once you pin the testosterone, that might not be the case. You might take an oral and your natural production shuts down forever. But for me, I took that chance and it was fine. So, but taking actual testosterone, you're injecting it exogenously instead of your balls producing it, at that point, you could be on that for life, and it's a lifelong commitment. And especially at this point where I'm not actually a dumb kid anymore, it was a decision I was thinking like, do I really care that much? Obviously it's kind of my job and to look good and things, but I don't want to be a massive bodybuilder. I'm kind of happy with how I look and I look fairly natural. These orals and things haven't done much. I could just get off now and just stay natural. I'd look very similar. I should do that. So really, that's kind of what I did. For that whole prep, I still did the same stuff, kind of just was off orals for the very beginning of it. And then towards the very end, I'd done some things like Anavar and Winstrol to like get a bit harder and get leaner for the show. I'll put some pictures up on the screen now. But if I'm honest, And not to be like big-headed or whatever, but I want to give you a realistic expectation of what it's like, is that this didn't really do shit. Like, it doesn't do much. Yes, I was probably drier and harder and leaner and retained a bit of muscle compared to what I would have done if I was completely natural. I've been much flatter, things like that. But in reality, I was probably 10% better. You know, it's not like I've been blasting for years and kind of this is the physique I'd gotten. I'd created a lot of this naturally, you know, and you can see I was 160 pounds. It's not like I was fucking 200 pounds shredded. But that obviously doesn't take away from the fact it definitely helps. So, and still at this time, I was very preemptive to kind of tell anyone. I didn't want to. Yeah, so that's what I did. And then going into the second show, I did the same again. And since then, this is kind of why I want to talk about it a bit more now, is because the lead up to that bodybuilding show, I felt terrible. You know, I've really gone about it very wrongly. I was taking overlapping substances that didn't work well with each other. You're starving yourself. That really isn't a great thing to do. And everything that you can imagine was probably just gone, you know. I can't imagine I had any testosterone or any estrogen in my body whatsoever. Like, I was absolutely depleted, shredded. I had no effects of like hormones whatsoever. I had no like anything. I had like no emotion. It wasn't that I was angry or I was this. I had very little emotion. I couldn't, and that's kind of generally what happens in a bodybuilding prep anyway. You know, you're starving yourself, you have not much emotion, but I was, yeah, very much emotionless, kind of lost. I had no hormones. And it really felt terrible. And after that show, bringing myself back to a baseline of normal hormone levels was very difficult. I tried to bring like I tried to naturally get back up again with a PCT, that sort of stuff, and kind of got to a point where I was okay, but because of the post-show rebound, I was fat and I was kind of sad about that as well. And it was kind of, the main thing was my sex drive was low. I haven't got any more now, but I was also popping the snus and nicotine all the time. And if you watch my other video, I'll pop it up in the cards right now, about me quitting that. And that's not great for your sex drive as well. All these sorts of things were just wrong and bad. And my blood test came back just terrible, all this shit. And it was kind of a point for me where I was like, what shall I do here? It's my job. So I can't just fall off and look shit. But I also don't want to just it was very difficult. I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I should kind of which route to go down. I'd won this bodybuilding show. Do I just blast steroids and get massive and be Mr. Olympia? I didn't really want to do that. And it was kind of like, right, do I just go back natural and kind of try and get my hormones back on, take 6 months off, trying to get them back on, look really shit and natural, or what do I do? So that's kind of what I did. I picked this one. I did a PCT. I kind of got fat. I didn't really take much pictures, but I mean, I was still big and decent. But this was like my natural physique. And yes, I'd still built muscle on the other stuff, but this is what I looked like naturally, kind of just eating like dog shit. This is a worst case scenario of natural for me because I was eating terribly. I mean, after a bodybuilding show, you eat loads. Well, I did anyway. So, and then it brought me to around Christmas. So this was happening from around June of 2024 to February of 2025. So the last kind of 6 or 7 months, I'd been trying to get my natural production back on. I'd been doing HCG, things like that. I'd then completely come off anything, trying to take anything. I was just like, screw this is stupid. And then got to a point where my sex drive was still low. And that was really a main thing for me, is like, I just couldn't figure that out. I figured it was because my hormones had been up and down and going all crazy all these different times. And that was the main thing for me. So because, I mean, I'm already not natural at this point, you know, for years now. And I decided, I was like, at this point, I'd thought about it long enough. I'd experimented for years and I was like, I'm going to get on testosterone. So that's what I did in January or February of this year, something like that. I can't remember, to be fair. If I'm honest, I think it was like around the same time Alex Eubank hopped on. So take that for what you will, but I don't know. So do I regret it? No, but I do regret how I went about it. Obviously I did the research, I did my blood work, but I was very much impulsive and reckless with what I was taking. I would just randomly take different stuff and be like, oh, let's try this. Oh, PCT. Oh, try that. Oh. And if you're doing a bodybuilding show, especially like an untested one, and you're already doing orals and stuff, you can't just, it would have been much better off taking testosterone instead of doing orals and things, because at least then you have a baseline level of hormones that are aromatizing into estrogen, and you're not just shutting down everything completely. The main sort of takeaway I want to give from this is you're not going to hop on and look insane. You're just not going to, like, it just doesn't do for you what you think it's going to do. I was that 20-year-old kid who was like, I'd seen David Lade's transformation video and I thought, hell yeah, I want that. What they on? Psalms? Right, I'm taking that shit. And you take it, and I looked fucking worse. I looked better natural. And it took the next 3 to 4 years to dial in exactly what to do and how to eat and how to take these different compounds to get me to a point where I'm like, right, figured it out, you know, did my bodybuilding show, messed it all up again. But all these mistakes, yes, have taught me lots of valuable lessons along the way. And it's something like, you know, people have these hobbies. If you're a fucking race car driver, you risk your life every day of hitting a tree. If you're a bodybuilder, you inject this shit and risk your life. And people will be like, yeah, but you don't have to do that. You also don't have to drive 120 miles an hour down a rally track, but people do it because it's fun and they like looking cool in their cars, and I like looking cool with my muscles. So that's the best analogy I can give. But for transparency, yes, I am not natural. I'm not a lifetime natural. I'm not natural currently. I'm still doing this stuff and probably will be for the foreseeable future. But if I'm honest, I don't imagine myself being on it forever. I think I probably will try and come off at some point. And my goals with this, it isn't to be like an IFBB pro or be a massive bodybuilder. The reason I look the way I do today isn't the drugs. Like, it just isn't. It's a probably 10% cherry on top of the way I look, but it's the decisions. If you just are muscular and just look good, that doesn't get you anything in fucking life, okay? You need everything else. You just can't think like that. The gym can't be your one thing that you're doing. You need to look good. You need to dress good. You need to smell nice. You need to be clean. You need to have fucking money. You need to be a gentleman. You need to know how to communicate. You need to be able to talk to girls. You need to be able to, like, run. You need to be able to do cardio. All this shit makes you an all-round, well-rounded masculine human, not just being jacked. So yeah, focus on everything else before that. You can get just as jacked as you need to be naturally. Just because someone's enhanced doesn't mean they'll look good. In the same realm, just because you're not enhanced doesn't mean you can't. Look at Hussein, prime example. That kid's natural and he looks decent. But yeah, this is just my story, not advice, not encouragement, but just transparency. You know, if you've got any questions, drop them in the comments and I'll answer them. But I'm gonna do a little Q&A right now of questions off Instagram. So let's quickly do this. I'm gonna rattle through them. What do you take? Right now, just testosterone. What camera are you using? This is filmed on this. It's a Sony a7C Mark II with a Tamron 20 to 40 millimeter lens. Why does your left bicep have no veins? How the fuck have you noticed that? I don't know, bro. I don't know. Genetics. But yeah, good spot. That is annoying. What was your first car? My first car was a Audi A3. And then I had a Vauxhall Astra, then I had a Vauxhall Corsa, then I had an Audi A3 again, and then I had a Golf GTI, and then I bought an RS4. Favorite muscle group to hit? Come on, bro. Chest, obviously. Bro, I've built muscle but can't get lean. Been trying to stay in 2,000 calorie range daily. Well, bro, up your cardio. It's very difficult to give you advice on exactly what to do. If you're in 2,000 calorie range, you might be 5'2", I don't fucking know. But get 10,000 steps a day. Do 30 minutes of cardio, make sure you're still eating 2,000 calories and around 1 gram per pound of body weight in protein, and you will get lean. So just keep it up, keep going. Bro, keep it up. Thank you, bro. A lot of people are going to watch you cooperate with other YouTube stars, Togi, Eubanks, etc. I'm not really sure what that means. A lot of people are going to watch you cooperate. Okay, yeah, maybe. Let's get Alex Eubank on the channel. How tall are you? I'm 5'10". Is upper lower program good? I don't know, to be honest. I've never tried it, but right now I'm trying like a back of my body, front of my body split. So it's almost like upper lower, but the wrong way round. Crazy. So I'll do like back and hamstrings, and then quads and abs, and then chest, and then arms and shoulders. Shit like that. Pretty crazy. Just mixing it up, you know, I'm a crazy guy. Biggest mistake you've made in terms of fitness? Probably getting fat in the first place. And this is because that's where I developed gyno, and it's one of the most difficult things to get rid of. Like, I talk all the time about how to mitigate it or how to get rid of it, because I've managed to make mine look way better. But ultimately, I wouldn't have got that if I didn't have high estrogen throughout puberty and I wasn't fat throughout puberty. That's what kind of gives you that. So I would have never got fat in the first place. But if you are wanting to lose it now, I mean, you just have to get to a low enough body fat percentage and hope for the best. How to lose your last fat if you're on 10% body fat? Cut your calories more and do more cardio. You really can lose a lot more than you think. Any tips for chest and back workouts and diet plan? I can't be asked with that. Just fucking look through my page. What do you think about cold showers? Very good. Love cold showers. Struggling to go my chest and triceps. Well, just work them out harder. A lot of people's main issue is intensity in the gym. You have to work out with more intensity. Go to failure. Do rest pause sets. Do drop sets. Just go fucking crazy in the gym. How long have you been training for? 6 years, I think. How to lean bulk with high appetite and don't get fat instantly. Just lock in, bro. Lean bulk, you don't really need to lean bulk, just main gain. And I think you can main gain quite easily. You said you were taking stuff, but could you say what you take and how you schedule it? Well, I talked about that earlier. Right now, just test. But before, the kitchen sink. Took loads of random different shit. Not all at the same time, but loads of random stuff. Best age to start lifting? I would say just after puberty, so probably around 16, 17. Your body looked really good, but always wonder what's your height? 5'10". Arm size and height, 5'10". 17 inches. Glad you're honest. No worries, man. Are you currently taking PEDs? Like I said, yep, testosterone. How long have you been training for? 5 years. Sorry, guys. Did your initial fat to lean transformation involve any PEDs? No. So, didn't take any PEDs for the first 2-3 years. So, I got very much, exactly. How did you find out you want to make fitness content? I kind of just started posting transformation videos just because that's what I was doing. I was just like the gym and I was transforming my body. So I started doing TikToks around it and it was fun. And then they started popping off sometimes. I started talking motivational stuff and I was doing a job I hated and just like wanted to just talk about it and life and shit. And then that's why I got into it. So I think that's about it. Glad you are honest. Thanks, bro. We'll leave it at that. So, yeah, I mean, if anyone has any more questions or anything, drop them in the comments or DM me on Instagram. And throughout this whole thing, I've very much learnt exactly what you need to do and kind of, everything, especially at the beginning of all this sort of stuff, growing muscle, you make gains, you're like, I'm a freaking genius. And you learn year on year how little you actually know. And now 6 years in, I feel I've learnt a lot enough to a point where at the beginning, I didn't even know how to lose fat. I wouldn't even have known to eat less, move more. And now I can transform my body in ways that I never thought was possible, grow muscle, get lean, fucking look sick, help other guys get lean and jacked as easy and quickly as possible. So if anyone wants coaching or a program designed custom specifically to you and kind of someone that can help you get there, if any of what I've said today is aligned with you or whatever, go to the link in the description to my website, check out the VSL and kind of drop me a message on WhatsApp if it's something you want to do. But other than that, I'll leave you with it. And yeah, it's been good getting this all off my chest. I'm not gonna, but yeah, peace and love.